Welcome to Beyond the OR with Dr. Kevin Brenner. I'm a board-certified plastic surgeon in Beverly Hills. I want to take you beyond my world of plastic surgery, diving deep into exciting hot topics and delving even deeper into compelling characters that I've met along the way. We'll be talking with attorneys, actors, comedy writers, Navy SEALs, and many other fascinating and inspiring people with truly intriguing stories to share. So let's jump right in. Welcome back to Beyond the OR. Today we have an amazing guest, someone who indirectly saved my life not that long ago, Mike Coleman. Mike is the SVP, Senior Vice President of Strategic Partnership at Global Guardian. If you don't know what Global Guardian is, you better educate yourself, because with what's going on today in the world, they're probably the most important company that you should have in your Rolodex or on your phone. Mike has a background in the U.S. Army Special Forces and has quickly escalated in the Global Guardian company once leaving the military. Today we're going to learn all about his genesis story, as well as how he got involved with Global Guardian. And you're going to find out how I met Mike, because it was a very unusual introduction. So, Mike, welcome.
Thank you.
It's really nice to meet you in person. We've texted, but maybe we should give a little backstory. First, let's start with, can you tell us a little bit about Global Guardian? Like, what is Global Guardian? What do you guys do? What do you provide? Who are you doing it for? And how are you doing it? That I want to start with that, and then maybe we'll talk about how you and I met.
Absolutely. Well, that'll be the fun part, right? That'll be the exciting part, the conclusion of the
a little
episode
suspense
here.
for everyone.
Exactly. little trailer there. So Global Guardian is an international medical and travel security company. We generally service the Fortune 1000 companies and ultra high net worth families. We provide international security in 135 countries around the world. We do everything from executive protection to investigations to emergency response. And we do it in a lot of different places for a lot of different people. As you say, sometimes it's unplanned, sometimes it is very much planned. We are probably best known for our emergency response capability. You were a small part of that, but we're servicing clients right now in Israel, moving them to safety. Before that, we were in Sudan. Before that, it was Niger. So we kind of moved to those crises and help people, really.
That was a very succinct explanation.
Thank you.
So, let's talk about how we met, because that's probably the most interesting part about this connection. And then I want to find out more about you before Global Guardian. But month and a half ago, I think it was, I was traveling in Morocco. I had a trip planned to Morocco and to Mallorca. And the reason we were there, Morocco was never even on my radar, but we were there for our very good friend's wedding vow renewals. So we actually flew to Morocco, met up with a group of about 30 of us in total, individuals, and we arrived in Morocco, into Marrakesh, into the airport there, approximately, 3-4 in the afternoon on a Friday. And from there, we took a drive about an hour and a half up into the Atlas Mountains, and we were staying at a very bougie resort called the Tamadat, the Casbah Tamadat, which is Richard Branson's resort. And we were there just for a couple days for a very lovely, intimate kind of wedding celebration. And we checked into the hotel. I didn't even really know where anyone was, because we checked in, we put our bags down, showered, changed, went to dinner, and came back to the room because we had just been traveling for a whole day, hadn't really slept much on the plane. We were both exhausted. Everyone was exhausted. I was like, I got to get some sleep. I popped an Ambien, put on my headphones, and I'm watching a show on TV. Yes, we had Wi-Fi way up in the Atlas Mountains, and I dozed off to sleep. Next thing, I look up. I feel the most craziest, fierce shaking of my entire life. And I grew up in California, so I've been in a lot of earthquakes. But I woke up completely startled. My wife was standing over me. She was about to get into bed, and it was immediately clear this is a huge fucking earthquake. Mm-hmm. So we were, I later learned, almost at the epicenter of this earthquake. And so the two of us were just kind of huddled, sitting next to the bed and hugging each other, just waiting for this thing to stop. It felt like it was a minute long, but apparently it was only like 20 seconds. And then it stopped, and we were like shaking still. And I just looked at Danny. I said, "We got to get the fuck out of this room, out of this building immediately." We were in the main portion of the hotel. It was so fierce that I can't believe the entire building didn't collapse. It was like, I described it to everyone since I've been home. It was like if King Kong took the room and was just shaking it all over the place.
And I'm sure because it was Richard Branson's resort, it was built to earthquake code, and did a really well holding up. Correct?
Well, it held up better than the mud huts in the area that were immediately surrounding it, right? I mean, everything else was flattened.
Destroyed.
So I said, "Put your shoes on." I grabbed my backpack, phones, chargers. I don't ask me why, but I had my pocket knife, I had a flashlight, I had a pair of gloves. That's a whole nother story. And I just put it all in my bag, and I said, "Put some shoes on and let's get out." And so we opened the door, and it looked like Armageddon outside, like just dust everywhere. It looked like a bomb went off right outside the room. And I was like, holy shit. The floors were buckled. There were like cracks, lightning bolt cracks in all of the walls, everything in the room. It was so violently shaken. Everything was broken. Like, it just looked like a mess.
It looked like a war zone.
I mean, it really did. It was bad. And I mean, the property, it wasn't demolished, but it was pretty well destroyed. And so then I was like, we get out of the room, left all of our stuff, and I was like, we got to find everybody. I didn't know where anyone was. I didn't know what rooms our friends were in. So we were trying to call them. No comms, right? I mean, like, the phones aren't going through.
Did you lose power?
Well, initially the power went out, and then the generator kicked in. So we're looking for everybody, and we finally slowly kind of, the employees at the hotel, God love them, were doing their best, but they had no clue what to do at all. There was no emergency plan that I could tell. And they just wanted to get everyone out of the hotel so that no one died. And amazingly, not a single person at the resort was injured. Seriously injured. And we finally found our friends, and then they were trying to get us. They got us all out. They had the grass tennis courts. Mm-hmm. I think I remember me telling you that. And it's now this happened at 10 after 11. So by the time we found everyone, was getting close to midnight, and our friend who was hosting the event was on the phone with his travel agent immediately. And I'm just kind of like listening to this. It's chaos. No one knows what's going on. And I'm just trying to get all of our group together in one tent with all of our stuff. It was actually it was mayhem. And so we finally get everyone together. And then I start hearing from the employees like, "Oh, the roads are impassable." Mm-hmm. I don't know. And then, we have our travel agent who says they're sending up some cars and maybe they can be there by 10 a.m. And this is now around midnight. And I don't know what happened in my mind. I'm like, I don't think we're getting off this mountain, or at least we're not driving off this mountain. I just don't. That's how bad. I mean, I kind of had a picture in my mind, because if you haven't been there, the access road into the resort's actually on this 2-lane road. Mm-hmm.
Like I saw a video.
Switchback road. And so, I mean, like, literally the entrance is at the edge of the road. There was no room for anything. So I pictured like whole sections of road just gone. That's how badly everything was flattened. So so then my friend's talking to traveling, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, this travel agency is not going to be able to get us off this mountain, or at least I didn't think they were. So I'm thinking, and no one's doing anything. And I said, I gotta phone a friend. So that's when I texted Mark, and that's when I texted Wally. And Wally and Mark are both former SEAL Team 6, and both friends. And I said, SOS, we're in Morocco, major earthquake. I didn't even know how big it was. I just knew it was huge. And we got to get about 30 people off this mountain ASAP. And so I waited 2 minutes, and then like immediately Wally got back to me. He's like, I'm on it. Don't worry. Hold on. I'm calling Mike Coleman.
Dun, 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 to the rescue,
He's like, just
Mike
sit
Coleman.
tight. Now, mind you, this was now like 12:30 or so. I had about this much charge on my cell phone.
Oh my God.
The power was initially running on generator. The generator caught on fire. So the generator cut. So now we're without power, without water, or with whatever we had in bottles, and with limited food. And I was just like, we could be up here for a week. I don't know. I don't know what's going to go on. So, and then, so Wally put me on a text thread with you. I asked Wally 0 questions. I
Just took his word. Just took him at his word. That's risky.
Said, it is risky.
Knowing
Especially if you know Wally.
It is risky.
And I just said, we need help. And he's like, I'm on it, brother. Don't worry about it. And then, so he connected me with you. And I said, he's like, I'm putting you on a thread with Mike. I said, great. Who's Mike?
And I asked the same question.
That's exactly how that went. And then you could take it from there on your end. I mean, sure. And then I got to tell you, I mean, it was what I would imagine, like if I was, if the pilot died on a plane and I had to be like talked down, like how to land a plane, having never flown a plane before. That you were like the calm in the storm for us, because you were just very professional on it every step of the way. I mean, like every few minutes texting me updates, etc. So tell me from your side what.
So it's always interesting to hear the other side of, what we do, because we very rarely get to, come and see somebody in person, right, that we've gotten to help, right? Because it's generally people that we've met, like we'd met. Generally people come to us in the time of crisis, and you don't always get to hear the good news story at the end. So it's, really fulfilling to be here and get to meet you and your wife and see the goodness. What was going on the back end is I had come back from a corporate retreat that night, and it was about 10 o'clock Eastern time. And I got the text call from Wally saying, hey, this just happened in Marrakesh. We have a friend there. Can you help? I immediately reached out to our operations center, which is in McLean. It's 24/7. It's staffed at all times. They had already gotten reports about the earthquake because we had about 20 clients that were in Marrakesh.
Oh, wow.
So there were a bunch of other things going on, like what you just experienced. We were receiving those calls from clients at the same time.
Not up in the Atlas Mountains, just down in the city.
Down in the city.
And there was surprisingly a lot of destruction in the city.
There was.
It wasn't nearly as bad as where we were, but yeah, I mean, there were parts of the old
Casbah, et cetera, were really
demolished.
Based on the construction of the buildings, they just did not hold up very well. So we had already started receiving those reports. And, when I always get those phone calls, even though it was coming from Wally, you have to do a quick temperature check. And, is the person on the other end of this phone a real person, right? Are they serious? Or do they really need help? And you were very...
I was fucking with Wally.
Yeah. Well, you never know with Wally, right? No, in all seriousness, you were, vice-wise, a great partner at the time. You were also very succinct. You were very calm, believe it or not, in that circumstance. So it was easy to work with you on that end of the phone. But what was going on in the reels, we had immediately reached out to our partner that was in Marrakesh, our affiliate that was there, and kind of had them give us an operational update of, what they saw in the city, what they experienced, what was going on right now. Were there emergency services? Was the government stepping in? And they gave us a very succinct kind of update of what had happened and, what they thought the Moroccan government was going to be able to provide in the, the first 12 to 24 hours, which are, like, as you said, the most vital kind of portion of a disaster like that. For us back in the operations center, this is kind of a normal day. I mean, it was Morocco then, and in the past couple of months, it was Burning Man there one weekend. Right. The weekend before that, it was Maui. So we are very.
Now we have Israel. Israel, are you helping people in Israel too? Also,
we are. We moved about 700 people out of Israel in the past week, mainly by charter flights. In and out of Tel Aviv.
So did you end up connecting with the people that I called you about?
I did.
And were you able to get them out?
They did not, they were not as good a partner as you. They did not, they kind of faded away. Generally.
So they're fighting the good fight in Gaza?
They are. They're fighting the good fight, or they just decided to stay. And that's generally how things go with someone that's in a circumstance like that is they'll reach out to us initially. They'll be very excited, but as soon as they find a way out, they'll immediately take that, and which is understandable.
Makes sense. But so last week we got a phone call from a friend of ours who had another friend who was with his wife and their 2-year-old kid in somewhere in Israel. I don't know exactly where, but he's like, I need the name of the person that got you out of Morocco. I was like, hold on. And so I texted Mike and I said, connect to you guys. And, but yeah, so 700 people out of Israel. I mean, that.
We follow the same process, for each crisis like that. We follow the same process. It's very well practiced. We're pretty good at it, and we're very good at it. And, it's just, for us, it's, I don't want to say another day at work, but it is. It's really just, moving on to the next crisis.
You're currently in my speed dial.
Well, good.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people tell me, like, as they get older, they like to have doctors on speed dial. I have a complete, I also am a doctor, so I know a lot of doctors. So I already have people on speed dial. But like for me, guys like you and Matt and Wally, that's who I have on speed dial, because especially with what's going on nowadays, it's insane. It's insane, and you can't do everything yourself.
So you say you have doctors on speed dial. We do the same thing, because a lot of the calls we'll receive will be a medical question.
Right.
You're in a hotel room. You're in a foreign country.
Right. You do medical evacuations too. I was reading on your website a guy with a broken femur down in South America, and you flew him out. And so if someone has a medical emergency and they're in Marrakesh and they don't want to be treated in a hospital in Marrakesh, you will come in and
escort them out. I mean, we have a full medical staff that works at Global Guardian. You'll call into the operations.
Why am I not on the medical staff? I don't understand.
I just didn't pitch you the job yet, but we're going to get there at the end. We have a full medical staff that, you'll call into the operations center and say, hey, I'm feeling this way. And we'll have a doctor on the line with you in about 90 seconds. They're practicing physicians, which we think is really important, that they're still out there doing that every single day. They kind of moonlight for us and come in and provide that kind of expertise right over the phone. And then, we'll tell you what hospital you should go to in Marrakesh. We'll have somebody come pick you up, take you to the hospital, help you, adjudicate the medical system in that company. And, if you think about Global Guardian, it should be like a 911, a global 911.
Right. That's exactly how Wally described it to me after I got back. After we were out. But like that doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? I mean, so, you guys have, I would imagine, a wide array of clients, right? From the individual who's traveling in South America to corporate clients who have 500 employees in Kenya or wherever, right?
Thousands of employees.
Right. And, so can you explain, like, how you and Global Guardian, how have you guys set it up that you can have immediate response? I mean, so by way of comparison, had I not been able to get in touch with you, because I had never heard of Global Guardian before Wally told me about you, but now I have. But had I not been able to get in touch with you for whatever reason, or if I didn't have cell service, for some miracle, I had great cell service,
which was surprising.
Which was really surprising, since there was no power too. But we could have been up there for days, a week, 2 weeks. I mean, I really have no idea. Or, we would have gotten down, but we would have gotten down, a little hours later. Didn't know what was happening. I didn't know if this was the actual quake or a foreshock. If there could have been another aftershock that could have leveled the place. There could have been aftershock that happened as we were exfilling off the mountain, and a boulder could have crashed in our car. I mean,
Mike, from A to Z, when you extract people, do you have follow-ups? Are you with them until they are completely safe?
Completely safe.
And out of, and then...
And that's one of the things we'll determine right up front is kind of what is the end state? What is the culmination of this individual client's experience? For you, it was getting on the aircraft. When you got on the craft and you left with your party of 30, if you remember, we were asking you how many people were on the plane this time, who was on the plane this time, who was on, because we wanted to make sure all 30 were out. If you go back to what you initially said, though, of how we met, it was a network, right? It was having a connection. Right. And that is really Global Guardian's secret sauce, is that we have that network in those 135 countries that we practice with all the time.
Right. So it's we're 1 a.m. or whatever, and you tell me how that happened. So who did you call in Marrakesh that got you 6 SUVs and 6 drivers? All the guys were locals. English was so-so. I know you.
It was 1 o'clock in the morning.
I know you like to say that all your assets speak English, but I don't know.
It was 1 o'clock in the morning. It was an
my
earthquake.
Arabic and French is not very good. So, but how did you have it set up that you have all these guys basically on speed dial?
So that affiliate that we are partnered with in Morocco, we have been partnered with them for years.
Right. Is it a security company?
It is. It's a partnered security company that we have done a very extensive due diligence with, that we have gone in and vetted and trained and worked with, and most importantly, that we work with all the time. So your experience with them was that single time. I personally have worked with that company 5 times over the past year. That's just me. There's 6 other me's in Global Guardian. So you can imagine we have a constant relationship, a constant trust that we build with that company. And that is really what we're doing all over the world on a daily basis. And that's why I can call them in the middle of the night and say, hey, there's 30 Americans that are in the Atlas Mountains. I understand your house, because those guys are all from Marrakesh. You and your family just went through this earthquake. And I need you to go get your van now and drive 2 hours south into the mountains, right where the earthquake happened, and go pick these people up. And they're like, okay, we'll do it.
Mind you, not knowing if the roads were open, not knowing,
well, so what went on in the background, to answer your question, was, once we kind of established where you were, which was for one of our normal clients, you were not a client at the time.
Right.
For our clients, they have an app from Global Guardian that they keep on their phone, which tells us exactly where they're at. We can communicate with them, through the app. We can see where they're at. There's a button, get in contact with us. But we found you on Google Maps. You gave a very concise location. Google is fantastic. We actually had them drive the route before we moved the entire convoy down there, because as you saw, like some of the videos, I don't know if you saw on the website, we have a couple of videos of the where the drivers are actually moving through the mountains, and the road was passable.
Yeah, but there were boulders everywhere. Yeah.
But they were still able to get down and around.
Yeah.
And so we drove the route down with the drivers. They gave a positive report, and then thank God it was only an hour and a half drive, I believe.
Yeah.
South.
Yeah, it was a little dicey, but yeah, it was open.
And Mike, you have an extensive background. We would love to hear more about your background. You have a military background, aviation. Am I correct or not?
No, just a lot of time in planes. No, not actually flying them.
Okay.
So you're from Pennsylvania.
I am.
How did you end up in the Army?
I'm from Pennsylvania originally. I was a high school student. Went on to college, graduated, and while I was in college, I was kind of drawn to the military teamwork, that small unit camaraderie, all those kind of things that that make people stay and be in the military. I found it in college, graduated. It was a great job. This is going pretty far back now, not to date myself, but this is the 1995.
I'm still older than you.
Okay, good. Going back in time there a little bit. And, joined the Army. I was at Fort Bragg in the 82nd for 4 years, and then tried out for special operations based on some mentorship that I had gotten from a close friend.
The Rangers?
He was a Green Beret.
No, you were in the Rangers?
No,
what did you do?
I went to Ranger School. There's a distinction.
Okay.
Went to the Ranger School, graduated, but then I spent all of my time in Special Forces.
Oh, wow.
So tell me the distinction between being a Ranger and Army Special Forces.
So Army Rangers are in the Ranger Regiment.
Right.
They are, direct action guys. They're there to, break things and kill people. Green Berets are a little bit different. We're there to, our motto is free the oppressed.
Right.
So we are
force multipliers.
Exactly right. We are go in and we help an indigenous force or become better. We teach you. Right. It also makes us great network builders and relationship builders, which is why you see Global Guardian able to do what it does. Is our CEO was a Green Beret.
Right.
Wow. That is kind of the mentality.
Are all the other suits, if you will, do they all have military backgrounds, or most of them?
Military and federal law enforcement. So we have a good cadre of all prior military, special operations, and federal law enforcement. So a lot of FBI, Secret Service, and that is probably one of our biggest differentials in the space, is that the people that lead Global Guardian come from that background, and they bring those years of experience in national security and the government with them.
And are those, that group of people, are they mostly focused on domestic operations as opposed to international operations, or is
both.
it mixed?
Both. Everything that we do internationally, we do domestically. In the United States, it's, states are very much like little countries with different personalities and cultures. And, we utilize that same model of, local people can do things and know things about an area that, when you visit, if I brought you to Harrisburg, it would probably be a lot like Marrakesh for you.
Perhaps. So,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So how long were you in the Green Berets? Active duty?
26 years total active duty time, probably about 20 years in Special Forces.
And why did you leave?
It's just time to go after 20.
Like leave the military.
It's just time to retire.
Like a lot of guys will stay on and be instructors or.
Mm-hmm. So I did my final 2 years in the military. Were at the Army War College, and I just always like to caveat that because people think in their head, little driving tanks around the battlefield, and that's really not what the school does. It's really there to bring in the most seasoned, successful military leaders from not just the United States, but from around the world together for a year. And you really are there to focus on strategy and, kind of big thinking and experiencing, a cadre of people that have been very successful, in their military careers and, building those networks. It's really a privileged place to work. I mean, you get to operate and learn from, the top 1% of the government. It's not just U.S. students. It's 150 other nations that send literally their best military officer there.
Did you go straight from Special Forces to Global Guardian, or how was that transition?
I had a weekend off.
One whole weekend?
One whole weekend.
Why did they give you so much time?
A little bit of choice. I mean, I like to stay busy, right? I was ready to move on from, the Army. Our CEO, Dale Buckner, was my company commander. He was my boss in the Army from 2003 to 2005.
Right.
So I was very excited to, get to the company and get started. And I was just ready to go.
And was it already like an established entity at that point?
It was. So Global Guardian started in 2011. Literally Dale at a folding table in a closet.
Yeah.
And it has grown to, I think we're going to hit about $70 million this year. Exponential growth over the past 11 years.
Wow.
That's amazing, right?
The world is not getting any better or safer.
As we've experienced this week. So I mean,
it's getting scarier.
Since I've gotten back, I mean, I can't tell you how many people I've told about Global Guardian. Like, I mean, everyone's like, wants to hear the story. Like, what happened?
Good. They should all call us on our website.
I mean, seriously. So, I mean, I haven't given your number out specifically, but I've been telling everyone you gotta have this number in your Rolodex because you just never know. I mean, you could be on a domestic trip, you could be on international, you could be in in Hawaii. We, by the way, were in Maui the week before the fire. I think disasters are following me around.
Well, it's not just you. It's just, the world has changed, and what governments used to provide are no longer normal things. That the people have an expectation that their governments are going to provide services for them in the time of disasters or chaos, and it's not always like that. There's normally a gap there. People a lot of times will have an expectation that, well, there's a U.S. embassy in the country and they're going to come and save me. That's not what embassies do. Embassies facilitate trade and relationships. They don't have platoons of Marines ready to help Americans in crisis.
Right. I mean, because I actually was thinking about that, and the reason I was thinking about that is because while I was talking with you, then Matt got back to me and told him what was going on. And interesting story. I said, I'm like, I just don't know. I didn't know if you had air assets available or not. And so I was just talking. He's like, don't worry. I got you. I got a group that's not too far away. We can spin up some helicopters and get you if you need to. It's going to cost a little bit of money, but we can do it. So I said, okay. But like, just knowing that was an option was like, just made me just a little bit more calm. Right. So the next day after we got off the mountain, he called me back and he says, tell me like what happened. So I told him. He's like, well, where were you? Because I guess wasn't as crystal clear in my communication as I thought. I said we were at Richard Branson's place, the Tamadot. He's like, you got to be kidding me. I said, why? He says, I'm on Necker Island right now as we speak. He was given a talk to a group with Richard Branson, watching his rocket launch. And I was like, well, that's a small world. I said, tell him his resort's destroyed.
Yeah. Let me send you some pictures.
He might be interested to know.
Mike, because you are, such a global company in security, how do you guys stay updated, with the latest trends or the latest political or how do you guys almost have to think like one step ahead? Where do you guys get your information? How do you track like what's going on in the world
like
right now?
Every disaster that's happening.
Yeah, like how do you guys?
Are you getting like real? Are you getting military updates from what's going on?
No,
in
everything we
Israel?
do is commercial, open source intelligence. I mean, social media is moving at the speed of light. It's not always accurate, but it's fast.
Right.
Through our local teams are great sources of intelligence, that's real, very reliable. We absolutely trust what they tell us. And then of course we're looking at all the sources out there in the world. We ingest a ton of information through our automated platform, and it's through that platform that we're seeing how those specific world events are affecting our clients. I mean, on a daily basis, we're probably tracking close to 3 million people around the world and correlating events to where they are on the ground and letting them know, hey, there's a protest going on 2 blocks over from you in Paris. You probably need to know that and, move west, not east, because you'll walk right into the protest. And that's the service that we're providing to, clients on a daily basis so that they don't find themselves. I mean, the idea is to prevent you from us having to come get you, right? Is to keep you out of the problem, to do a little bit of, either planning or notification so that clients don't find themselves in those kind of predicaments.
Well, and that's the good segue to this question is give our listeners like some travel tip that they should have, that they should know, especially you have so much experience, right? And that might help.
Bring a flashlight with you wherever you go.
So it's funny you say that because that
seriously.
is generally some of the stuff we'll talk to clients about is, okay, you're going to a place in the Atlas Mountains. It's very remote. Okay, so what if, the phones don't work? First of all, if you can't get on your cell phone, you're going to probably, start to twitch, right? So do they have internet? Do they have Wi-Fi? If that goes out, do you have a satellite phone? Right. How far are you? Where exactly, do you know exactly where you're going? Or if you just looked at the travel brochure? And if you needed to articulate to somebody where you are, how would you do it? I mean, we were able to Google your resort, but if I had asked you, what's the lat long?
I did.
You had your lat long?
I did drop a pin to Wally. So if he didn't give that to you, I'm gonna have some words with him.
Wally's getting toasted today.
And sometimes it's more of an education with clients, right? What to expect. Flying into Beijing, China is a very different experience than flying in, Charles de Gaulle in Paris. So just helping clients understand what to expect. Clients flying into Mexico, for instance, how am I going to get from the airport to my hotel? Am I going to take an Uber? Am I going to use a cab? Am I going to use secure transportation? And it's those things that, the gaps that we fill for our clients is, helping them think through those things and have a plan.
But that's for your existing clients, right? Or your retainer clients, if you will. How does someone like me, if I don't have your cell phone number, how does someone like me get a hold of you guys in an emergency?
I mean, there's always our website. Right. Our operations center, we'll pick up the phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. When you call us, there's no automated answering service. There's no dial 1 for, marketing, 2 for Global Guardian Emergency. Right. Somebody picks up the phone every single time. And because when people are calling us, they want to talk to a person about what's happening to them right at that moment.
I mean, because
it's probably the worst day of their life at that moment.
It really was. And you don't know what's happening. I mean, like we had no outside information. I mean, you knew about it just because. I mean, I remember the first thing you said to me is we got an agent on the ground in Marrakesh. He's working his way up towards you guys. But how many people can you call that are that well staffed and that well briefed? Not very many. And so, you guys all need to keep in your cell phone numbers Global Guardian's website and phone number for the operations center.
Is there a story that you can tell us that really might have emotionally touched you, or you were like, oh my God, thank God we were able to get them out, or anything?
Morocco! Did you not hear the whole story? It was a tearjerker.
There are so many. I mean, because it almost becomes, I don't want to say callous to it, but it happens so often that it's, someone who got their hand stunk in the crank as they were on their yacht, and, they held onto the rope and it went through, and, medical emergency. I had a client not too long ago in Brazil who was there by herself, and she got poked in the eye with a piece of metal and needed to go to an ophthalmologist right in Sao Paulo. Those are very kind of scary experiences. I mean, just recently, in fact, this week I was in Boston with a client who I got to meet some of the folks that we evacuated from Israel, that were very happy, to be out of the country and kind of be safe.
All Americans that you evacuated?
They were all American citizens. Their company did a great job of supporting their employees who were, obviously in danger. We're willing. I mean, these things are not cheap, and companies will generally step up and do the right thing for their employees. So those were, very touching stories to, have somebody hug you and say, I was really scared. And then we got to, walk out to the plane and, see the pictures of them happy on the plane. It's very happy, very fulfilling.
Yeah. I would have been scared if I was in Israel too. It's like you have no control over what's going on. And I mean, that's really what it comes down to. You really have no control. And maybe it's because I'm older now. I think about that stuff. When I was younger traveling, I mean, when I was younger, backpacked around Europe, didn't really care. Like nothing's going to happen.
You start to see your mortality.
Yeah.
But it's also, I mean, the global world, the global environment that we're in is very different than it was 35 years ago.
It is. And the world doesn't seem to be trending in a direction of better. It seems to be, becoming more chaotic, more caustic, and
more aggressive.
It doesn't mean that clients don't still want to go to Marrakesh and enjoy the good parts of the world. You just have got to take precautions. You have to think about, if I'm in a place, what am I going to do when I get there? How am I going to get out? Who would I call if I need help? Right. And it's funny, people will run through that mental Rolodex and think, well, who do I know? And that is exactly the gap that Global Guardian fills, is because we got a guy there. We know a person there.
Right. There's my Rolodex only goes so deep, but it doesn't have to go that deep now.
It really doesn't.
Well, that's interesting that you say that because I'm thinking like disaster, like I just remember when Letta had just gotten to Morocco and I was freaking out trying to text them. I was really worried about them. And then Dr. Brenner told me about Global Guardian and he was like singing you guys' praises. I imagine that happens a lot, that people, once they experience what you guys did and they know there's this option, I'm sure that once they're out, you guys are like, they are probably telling everybody. And interestingly enough, I thought it was just you guys can extract from disasters. I didn't realize, which I'm glad you hit, that also medical, like if you're in another country and something happens, you break your back or whatever, you guys are equipped to help them.
I mean, we've recently moved a patient who had, experienced a stroke in a foreign country and, was immediately seen by the local medical professionals, was stabilized. And then, we basically are partnered with a fleet of air ambulances around the world where we can dispatch an aircraft that's got a doctor, a flight nurse, basically equipped for that patient specifically to pick them up and then move them back to, the United States where they can be treated. I mean, with the stroke patient, they were stabilized at the time and really needed to come back to work through some rehab and, whatever happens after a stroke. That's not something you want to do in a third world country if you have the ability to, come back to the United States and do it. But generally, it's not clients reaching out to us for the Marrakesh extraction or the stroke. It's, I lost my passport. I don't know if I ate bad street tacos today or am I having an appendicitis? What should I do? What hospital should I go to? If you've lost your blood pressure medicine in a foreign country, what do you do? How do you get that prescription refilled? So we do a lot of those kind of things too for clients, and not always, very sexy like, the stuff on the website, but those are the things that, will keep somebody happy and healthy on a trip, especially, blood pressure medicine, for instance, or something like that, they need while they're traveling.
But, and you have other arms of the company, right?
Yes, we do.
So they're cybersecurity, surveillance, and you also run personal security, right? So
we do.
So you have, like in our case, you have assets, relationships with assets, who are locals, right?
Absolutely.
But you also, I would imagine, I don't want to put words in your mouth, I would imagine you have like American security contractors, if you will, former military or police officers, right, who do personal security as well? Absolutely.
So we do a very large amount of personal security, especially here in California, where we're doing, residential security teams at people's homes 24/7, moving them around, driving them around. I mean, you want to think like a Secret Service-like detail for some of our clients, and then other clients, that are just utilizing us when they're traveling. We like to think about ourselves as like a one-button push for security. So if you're one of our clients and you have a need in security, be it cyber, investigative, you call one person. Mike.
Wow.
You? Are you in the operations center?
Sometimes I pass through, but
I left my jacket here.
I mean, I am backed up by a team that is, second to none. I mean, the operations center is.
They were great too.
Fantastic.
Right? You're not the only one I spoke to. I mean, you put me in contact with your guys. Who's running the operations center?
So operations center, first of all, it's staffed 24/7. We have between 10 to 15 people on duty at all times. Some of them are focused on domestic operations inside the United States. Some of them are focused on international. And in the time of crisis, like this past week, it's, when we have something like Israel going on, we'll bring in extra people to kind of man it up. Because there are so many different operations going on at one time. The demographic in there is, the 25 to 35-year-old, normally prior military or law enforcement. We're in Washington, D.C., so we have a lot of those, folks coming out of either service or, federal government. Their skill set translates very well to what Global Guardian does. So, they kind of can morph right in. I mean, the culture of the company is, we are very kind of fast-paced, competitive with each other and others' company. So that generally translates very well to those folks.
So, and is this mostly like monitoring, answering phone calls? Are they making game time decisions?
Game time decisions.
So it's not they're not bumping it up the ladder to
There
you
is no,
necessarily.
whenever I kind of give my sales pitch to a potential client, I tell them every time that, that person that picks up the phone,
It's not going to be you.
It's not going to be Mike, first of all. It's going to be one of our analysts in the operations center, but that person is going to be the person that gets you through your problem. There is no escalation to my supervisor. There is no, I have to ask to do that. And that's really
It's
one
not
of
like calling AT&T.
it is not. It is not. It's that person has the authority.
Yeah.
To move assets, to spend money, to do whatever they need to do to help that client out in that moment. Because for that client, in those 5 minutes, in those 10 minutes with that phone conversation, that's where, they are going to be a forever client or they're going to walk away. And it's in those 5 minutes, it's in that one interaction that happens that, makes clients happy.
And in those first 5 minutes, the stakes are really high
Exactly
for that
right.
client, like and if they don't have that decisiveness and that person, it's kind of like when you call 911, and if you don't have somebody calm that knows what you're doing, when you're in the middle of a crisis, you need that. That is something that gives you comfort. So it's not only just like the physicality of everything you guys do, but it's also that emotional support that you need in a case of an emergency, like you were saying, like as soon as you called and they were able to set up a plan, like that kind of gave you guys a little
Gave me a
more
little
of
relief.
peace.
I will be
Right.
honest. I was externally very calm. I was internally not very calm. But I also, that's my training. I did 2 surgery residencies. I've done a lot of trauma surgery, and it's the same kind of, algorithms, if you will, organization, triage, et cetera.
Process.
So and I was with my friend whose wedding it was. He actually was a Army medic.
Okay.
Special Forces Army medic for a short period of time before he became an attorney. And then my other friends, one was an obstetrician, the other was an anesthesiologist.
So you guys had medical covered.
So we had medical covered. Fortunately, no one really needed anything, but it's just a similar mindset. We're just used to dealing with emergencies, and I think it's different. Like the other 26 people were legitimately freaked out. I was a little freaked out because of the earthquake, but just in terms of just like running around like chickens with their heads cut off, not knowing what to do, or just like dazed and confused.
And that calmness is infective. It carries through the group, right? 2 or 3 people that are going, hey, wait a second, calm down. I've got a plan. I just talked to somebody. Everybody relax. Like, we're going to make it. And that is a very, calming feeling. And that's what our operations center conveys to a client who calls up and, oh my God, I've lost my passport. What am I going to do? I'm not going to get out of the country. I'm going to be stuck here forever. They get, they escalate very quickly, and it's, hey, calm down. We're going to get you an appointment at the consulate. It's tomorrow morning at 10. This is who's going to come pick you up. We're going to get you. Here's the process for it. Do you have so-and-so? And all of a sudden someone goes from, 100 miles an hour to, nice, slow, steady speed. And it's because you have that process.
How do you get a passport when you're in a foreign country?
I'd have to ask my operations center.
Because I always think about that. I actually, the first thing that we did was grab our wallets and passports and phones. And that was the first thing. I was like, gotta have my, if this building comes down, I gotta have my passport. So,
there's a whole process for it. You can get a temporary passport from an embassy or consulate. American citizen will verify your identity. You'll get a temporary passport on the way out.
But that's hours to days, or is it like
hours?
Weeks? Oh,
nope,
okay.
to hours. You generally walk into business hours.
Right.
But yeah, that's very, believe it or not, a very common occurrence for what our guys do.
Or they get stolen, right?
Or stolen, or
pickpocketed.
You guys also have a media room on your website. What is that media room? What can we find in there?
You can find, a lot of the stories that we want to highlight, because we try to put a very diverse, interactions that we've had with clients. Everything from, very large scale, like what we did in the Ukraine, 10,000 clients out in the first 30 days, down to very small, reliable, I can definitely see myself losing the passport. So they're basically case studies. And we want to just show clients, potential clients, that, hey, this is really the kind of the breadth that Global Guardian can cover. It really is your one-stop shop, one button you can push when you have an emergency, be it security, medical, whatever you're experiencing in that moment, we're going to step in and we're going to provide, support for you. We're going to be able to provide a service for you. We're going to be able to provide something to make your life better in that moment.
So like, I was thinking about this just because my daughter's contemplating going away for the summer, but like companies like that do team tours, especially international team tours, they should be calling you to track all their people.
The smart ones do.
I mean, they really should, right? I mean, I would imagine as a parent, I would want that, but I would think that these companies, right, should be your bread and butter, right?
Some of them are. I mean, a lot of times we're not a cheap service. It comes down to financial decisions. And
right.
I mean, we have definitely seen not so much on the student side, but on the corporate America side. The corporate America has finally realized that, as we're sending people around the world or in the United States even, we want them to be focused on what we're sending them there to do. And we don't want them to be worried about what's going to happen when I get there if something happens, or how do I get through the airport in Singapore? They want them to be focused on what they're going there for. So through that, we're filling a gap of education and then reassurance that when you get there, should something happen, you do have somebody to call that can, provide assistance in that moment.
Where are your weak spots? Like, where are you not set up to go? Like, I mean, are there I would imagine there's some country, 130 countries. It's not everywhere, but looking at your map, looks like you have assets everywhere.
We're really, there's a couple places. Iran, North Korea, Cuba. There are some of those places that.
Newsflash: I'm not traveling to either of those.
Well, you would be surprised. Antarctica. Some of those real obscure places.
Yeah.
But pretty much everywhere else. I've had clients in Nepal, Tibet. I have clients right now in Rwanda. People do not want to stop traveling. People want to go where they want to go and experience. The world might be moving in a downward spiral, but people still want to go out and enjoy the great things. And, you just have to understand the risk and figure out how you're going to mitigate it. And then you can do that.
That's awesome.
The app, is that just for clients that have let's say, so could you keep you guys on retainer, even if you don't need, so you become, is it a membership-based thing?
So we're a subscription
or as
service.
needed? Okay, a subscription service.
Subscription service. And there's a distinct reason for that. We like to build a relationship with our clients.
Right.
I like to have a conversation with my clients. I want them to know me. I want them to have my cell phone number. I want them to call me and talk about their trip to Rwanda before they book it. And in order to do that, we have to have a relationship prior to crisis. We can do things in the circumstances that, like we did with you, but we would much prefer to have a relationship with the client beforehand so that we can, hopefully prevent them from being in a terrible situation through, education. So the app is one of those things that our clients, get along with the air ambulance service. There's a bunch of stuff that comes along with our service. The app being one, the air ambulance service being another. That you get access to Global Guardian. If you think about our subscription fee, it's a lot like your credit card fee. The credit card brings you a bunch of other things, but you're paying a fee for it.
So I like that. Had I been a retainer client, how would you have advised me before going to Marrakesh and to Atlas Mountains? How would that have ended up different? No one's expecting a 7.0 earthquake. And I don't even know if that would have been on your radar necessarily. It's not like coming to Southern California or Afghanistan where there's regular earthquakes all the time. How would you have advised me? This is your wheelhouse. What else could I have done to prepare myself, my family, my friends for that trip, apart from have Wally's phone number in my cell phone?
Number one, we would have known that you were in Morocco and Marrakesh. So what was happening right after that earthquake, once we knew the earthquake happened, we look into our platform and see what clients have booked travel there and what clients are currently showing up through their phone app in Marrakesh. So we had already touched base with all of our clients that were in country way before I had spoken to you. So within, probably an hour, we had made contact with almost all of our clients that were in country. Are you okay? Where are you at? Do you need assistance? And, for the majority of them, they were fine, a little bit of, rattled or whatever,
Right.
But none of them left. None of them evacuated the country. They were, all okay. And, that's a little bit of that reassurance that we'll provide. I mean, we did the same exact thing in Maui. Once the fires were happening, we had clients that had both homes and were there on vacation. We reach out proactively to those clients and say, hey, we know you're experiencing this. Are you okay? And that's something that's very different from our service. To answer your question directly, what would we have done beforehand? I would have known you're there in the mountains. We would have known you were, 2 hours south. Hopefully I would have said, hey, do you have a way to call us? Do you have a sat phone if something goes? A group of 30 it's a pretty big group of people. I mean, it's inevitable just statistically, something's going to happen to somebody in that group. Maybe it's not something life-threatening, but somebody breaks an ankle, somebody, is sick, somebody loses something. Do you have a way to reach out to the outside world? And then if you've never been to Morocco before, what do you expect when you get there? What do you expect? What should you be doing proactively medically? Is it a place you should take a malaria prophylactic before you go? Those are the kind of things,
So like you'll integrate your medical team for that. I mean, that's a great question, right? Because I mean, if you're going to South Africa, yes, you need to take malaria medication. You don't in North Africa.
Exactly.
So that's a question I found out from colleagues. I didn't even know that, and I'm not a travel doctor, but yeah. So you have people on your medical team who are knowledgeable in,
absolutely
in that kind of stuff.
And doesn't need to be as extensive as that is. Just shoot me an email or shoot the operations center an email saying, hey, I have travel plan to Morocco. What should I do? And we'll send you back a kind of a one pager. Here's what you need to know about Morocco. Medically, customs wise. Especially for women and LGBT that are traveling to some countries that aren't quite as Western as you'd like, but you still want to go there. It's an education process to keep yourself and your family safe. When you get there, just knowledge before you go.
So it's safe to say that Global Guardian is peace of mind and preparation put together. We're just like,
It is. I mean, I'm not joking. I've been telling everyone who wants to listen to me, I'm like, you have to write this number down.
Trust me, it's true.
We would much prefer to talk to them though before they're in that
situation. Correct. Dr. Brenner, because we have to unfortunately wrap up. We could talk to you for hours, but Dr. Brenner asks every guest a question.
Don't sweat over that.
Yeah.
No. So I'm always curious because I always like to know everyone's backstory. Like, had you not gone to the Army and Special Forces, and then I guess this is an outbranch of that training. What do you think you would have done with your life?
Oh my God, that's a hard question.
Steel mills?
No, I don't know. Very well, right? If they're from Pennsylvania, no telling. Honestly, I don't know. I never really kind of, when you're young, you never really give it that much forethought. It was just sounded fun and exciting. And I knew I wanted to do something that, was around a good group of people. I mean, one thing that I don't think people talk about the military enough is the culture and the people you meet. You don't stay in the military because of, the pay. You don't stay because of the great, benefits. You're not getting a 401k and a bonus and all these kind of things. You're staying because of the people. It's people like Wally, right? It's people like that.
And I've said this to Danny, I've said this to Elizabeth time and time again. Every individual who I've met who is in whatever branch of Special Forces, in particular, military in general, but specifically Special Forces, you guys all are a different breed. And it's not like you're going to just take out your gun and shoot someone. You are a different breed intellectually, strategically, just the no quit mentality that I see seems to, for the most part, serve most of you guys very well, which is why you're doing so successfly in your new venture, right? So kudos to you.
No, thank you. Thank you.
And thanks for now being my new friend.
Well, everybody likes to have a plastic surgeon on speed dial, right?
Well, that's true. That's true.
So, Mike, could you look into camera and give our listeners exactly where they can find you guys? Because, I mean, This has been really riveting, and I didn't even know that a service such as this existed.
Neither did I.
Yeah,
No, I really didn't.
yeah. It's
But
fascinating.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
It really is brilliant.
Yeah, I would encourage everyone to go on our website, globalguardian.com, review the website. There's a contact card you can fill out on the website to reach out to us. We'll have a real person call you back, and just read through the website and think about, what would I do if I was in a place and I needed help? Who would I call? If I was in a far off country, who would I call? That mental Rolodex for the majority of us is pretty small.
Yeah.
And that's the service
You
we're
can call
providing.
me. I'll connect you with Mike.
Yeah, exactly. You can call him, and he'll connect you with Mike.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I thank you for indulging us. Thank you for working this into your travel plans. I really appreciate it. It was really nice chatting with you. Great to finally meet you. I was saying, I was telling everyone who we were on the trip with, I'm like, Mike's coming in studio. I was right there, and they were not all able to come. That would have been awkward if we had everyone here.
Sure.
all
Yeah.
30 of them.
No, it was great to get to meet you
but
too.
everyone was equally, if not more, as appreciative as I was. So thank you.
No, thank you. And like I said, it's great to kind of get to see the culmination of the work and, go back to the operations center and say, hey, guess what? That guy from Morocco, I got to see him and
What
even
a
shake his hand.
tool! Oh my God, he's got a podcast. You can't imagine. Wait, here, watch this.
Oh, they will. Trust me. Oh, they're going to watch
They're
the
gonna watch
podcast.
it. You should upload it to the website.
I'm sure we will.
All right, cool. Well, safe travels. I know
Thank
you
you.
got a meeting tomorrow. You're flying out in the morning,
do.
so safe travels. Enjoy the East Coast when you get back there.
I will. Thank you.
All right.
Take
Thank you,
care.
Mike.
Awesome.
Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the OR with Dr. Brenner. Make sure to subscribe, like, and follow so you don't miss any future episodes. In the meantime, hit me up on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Kevin Brenner MD and KevinBrennerMD.com.